The news is out as we have the stats for January 2026. Let's see how the market has performed. The average price has actually come down once again, but it's not quite as bad as the media is making it to be, which we're going to talk about. We're also going to address another brokerage that's gotten into serious trouble with the Real Estate Council of Ontario. I'm going to share with you where the buying opportunities are and where the selling opportunities are and how you can take advantage of this real estate market. So the first thing we're looking at is this headline. The average price of a GTA home has returned to 2021 levels, and there may be more market weakness ahead. And what we're seeing for the first time in a long time is our average price has finally been reported under $1 million. That's for the average price for all properties sales which took place in January 2026. Back in 2022, the average sale price was $1,242,000. This is specifically in the month of January, and we can see how it has come down there afterwards. Here's how the average price has come down across different property styles. We can see detached homes down 7.3%. This is actually the least of the decrease across the different property styles. Semi-detached homes down almost 10%. Similarly with townhomes and condo apartments. Here we can see a more longer term visual of what's taken place with the average price and how it's changed across the years. And one of the biggest contributors to our average sale price falling is the record inventory which is currently on the market. So we're going to have to wait for all the supply to sell before we see some sort of balance between supply and demand. And we're looking at the average inventory and the average number of sales. So far 2026, of course, has only been 1 month, but the number of sales on average is far lower than what took place in 2025. But look how much inventory we have on the market. And let's remember, the spring market is just around the corner where we typically do see the number of listings increase. So we're going to have major months ahead of us, February, March, April, where more inventory will hit the market. And then the major question is, will the number of sales increase as well? One of the things which made it especially slow this year was definitely the weather. We had more major snowstorms. Of course, we had colder temperatures, just preventing buyers from going ahead and looking or visiting that open house. There's a lot of great reasons to buy right now. We have slightly lower interest rates compared to previously. Also, the average price has come down so significantly, so buyers can be a little bit more picky as far as their wants and their needs. And the buyers for the lower price ranges are definitely out there. For example, this property did sell over asking price. This was in Markville, Markham. It's a linked 2-bedroom, 2-washroom home. You can see it was listed for $820,000. Sold over asking price, meaning that there were multiple offers on it, $10,000 above asking at $830,000. And that wasn't just a fluke or a weird incidents, because the same thing happened here with this property in Southeast Ajax. It was listed for $550,000. It sold at $710,000. And you can make the argument maybe they underpriced the property, but it still shows us that there is demand and there is sales activity. And here we're looking at how January 2026 compared to January 2025. So the number of sales is down 19%. The number of new listings, that's interesting because the number of new listings actually decreased. That came down 13%. So less inventory actually came on the market. However, we did have a higher reported number of active listings. Inventory is currently up by 8.1%. The average sale price was reported at $973,000, so that's down 6.5%. And then looking at days on market, the number of days on market, so the time it takes for a listing to sell, is currently 21.8% higher than it was in 2025. One of the things you may not be hearing about is that the average price has come down so significantly in specific regions, whereas in some regions, the average price has actually increased month over month. For example, for Halton detached homes, they've actually increased in value by 2% from December 2025 to January 2026. As you can see, that detached homes, specifically in York region, they've actually come down 10% month over month. So they've come down 10% from December 2025 to January 2026. And I look at these stats quite regularly and could not believe this information once I first saw it. I think the average price had come down about $160,000 in this region within 1 month. You can see York region detached properties selling 1.401. That's in January, and going back to December, $1,562,000. And here we're specifically looking at the price growth or price decrease across the different cities. So we're comparing the same time of the year last year, 2025. We can see Milton is actually up 6.4%. Mono is up as well, but the rest of the cities, they've all decreased in value. Toronto down 3%. What else? We've got Vaughan down 4.5%. Ajax down around 6%. Pickering down 7%, Markham down about 10%, Brampton's down about 11%, Mississauga's down 12%, and we can see there's quite a number of cities that have actually fallen in value by over 15%. Stouffville down 16%, Aurora down 19%, Newmarket is down 21%, and we also have King City down 31%. Let's remember though that January 2025 saw a pretty strong real estate market, so naturally when we look at the year-over-year figures, they will look negative because January 2025, most of those sales took place before the talk of tariffs. Once the tariff discussions came about, that's when the general interest started to decrease as well as the average price, and we didn't see too much of a spring real estate market last year. If anything, we saw January, the real estate market started on a high note and then came down afterwards. And one major surprise is you would expect the Bank of Canada to do something about this real estate market and decrease the interest rates. However, in their first interest rate announcement, which took place in late January, they actually made no change to the policy rate whatsoever. Other big industry news is that the Real Estate Council of Ontario has taken action against another brokerage. In this case, it's 4 Save Max brokerages. And it's for a reason that was quite similar to iPro Realty, but definitely not the same. In the case of iPro Realty, there was money that was missing from their trust account. However, in this situation here, there was $2.7 million within different Save Max brokerages that you can say was used in ways that are unlawful. They used that money to pay off credit card bills, pay off specific vendors, but the money was returned to the trust account there afterwards. So the Real Estate Council of Ontario said, hey, the money in the trust account is only allowed to be used specifically for transactions. You can't use it for other reasons, even if you reimburse the trust account afterwards. And so what they've done is they've actually frozen the accounts of 4 different Save Max brokerages, and they've actually suspended a couple of really big names in the industry. So this is going to be quite problematic for the 400 agents out there within those 4 Save Max brokerages. Hopefully the clients, the real estate agents, aren't negatively affected by this because, of course, there was only a few people responsible for what had happened. And of course, you can count on me for more updates like this. If you are considering buying or selling, make sure to call me. And if you're a real estate agent looking for a great brokerage, make sure to reach out to me to learn more about eXp Realty. And I'm also very active on Instagram, and I look forward to seeing you next time.